Hello YouTube. So this will probably be my first video. I don't know. But as you can see, here are two copies of Heir of the Empire. The paperback, which is very beat up, and the hardback. Now, there's a reason why I have both of these, because there's two things that these two books say that I want to talk about. One of the quotes, or something that EU haters often use against us, is the early copies of Heir to the Empire had a little blurb in there basically saying this book may or may not have happened after Return of the Jedi, meaning it may or may not be canon. What's interesting is both my copies of this book, as well as my other copies of Dark Horse Rising and The Last Command, don't have that blurb in it. So it sounds, and I do believe the Weston Game version of, or the Weston Game source book for this novel does have the same blurb, which I don't have that. Pablo Hidalgo used it on Twitter as, trying to say that Eve is never canon, and he basically used that blurb. What's interesting is the only reason why Heir of the Empire had that blurb is because at the time there was not a canon system kind of created yet. By 1994/95, it's kind of a gray area, or in that time period, a few years after this book came out, that's when the canon system started to get created, right? So, I want to talk about two things that each of these books say. First one, if you look, I'm sorry for the flash there, but look at the top. The saga continues. Interesting. Now the back doesn't say, it has that little cool crawl, I guess. But let's look at the paperback. As you can see, I've had to tape it because it's beat up, but look what it says. Now for the first time, the authorized continuation of the legendary Star Wars saga. Now all copies, depending on what version it is, paperback or hardback, say that. It says the saga continues, or the authorized continuation of the Star Wars saga. That's what both of these books say. Now, all copies of these books have that, but not all copies of this book have the blurb that says this may or may not be canon, or something like that. And what's interesting is none of the other Bantam books, or the later Del Rey books have that same blurb. Do you know why? It's because when Lucasfilm was releasing these books for the first time, they didn't expect it to go anywhere. Why didn't they expect it to go anywhere? Because look at the track record of the earlier novels, the earlier comics from Marvel, and the earlier Del Rey books. They didn't sell well at all. That's why Marvel gave the rights, or, relinquished the rights to do Star Wars. That's why Del Rey didn't do any books after the Lando Calrissian trilogy, because, from what I know, they didn't sell very well. So Lucasfilm didn't expect these books to sell. Lo and behold, the book reached that #1 national bestseller. So, and it was on there for a few weeks, which is really, really awesome. And that's when they were like, okay, maybe we can do something good out of this. Maybe we can actually add brand new stories to the Star Wars universe in book form. And they did. And that's what led to George wanting to make the prequels, right? Because he's like, oh, well, there's interest in Star Wars now. So he's like, okay, I'll go make my prequels like I always wanted to do. And he did. Like, I guarantee you, these books sold horribly. George would, first of all, no one would care about Star Wars. Second of all, George would never have made prequels. He never would have. So, people need to remember that. It's because of these books right here, this particular book, really, this is the reason why Star Wars is where it is right now. And if these books sold bad, Star Wars would be in oblivion. It would be in, I should say, obscurity. It would not have gone anywhere. There would be no prequels. There would be no Clone Wars. There'd be none of the Disney stuff. So, it's this book right here that kept Star Wars alive. And if you're going to try and use that blurb that was only in a few copies of this book to try and disprove it, you're either ignorant or you're spreading disinformation to try and deceive people and to try and make them, you're lying to them. You're pushing an agenda at that point if you're spreading disinformation. So let me tell you what, that is not a good thing. So, but like I said, all of the Heir to the Empire copies have a blurb like that, or they have a blurb like this. They all do. No matter if it's a paperback like this one or a hardback like this one. Thanks for watching.